Now, with the ANC's National Conference over, what's on President Cyril Ramaphosa's to-do list? Is it changes in the ANC first or cabinet? Speculation is rife. He's going to reshuffle his cabinet and deal with the Zweli Mkhize backers. Today, we're also expecting a list of new NEC members. Will it be Ramaphosa-friendly? Well, let's speak to political analyst Professor Susan Booysen. Professor, good morning and thank you very much for your time. Now, before we unpack the president's closing address, I'd like to get your views on the leadership that has emerged. Is it honestly equal to the task ahead as a governing party of getting us on the other side of this crisis we're facing?
There is clearly no clear-cut answer to that very pivotal question that's so central to government going forward, besides ANC in government, going forward unambiguously with one voice. If government going forward, it will be reflective of the problems and ambiguities that arose out of the conference. It is probably going to be 5 years of battles that we have seen before in the previous 5 years. We certainly hope, I think the country, the world, much of the world hopes, that the fact that President Ramaphosa has won a strong mandate at this conference, at least in terms so far of the top 7 being tilted strongly in his favor, and a few strong voices on that, voices that have been speaking out at this conference in favor of getting corruption behind ANC, being more assertive in government. Then the conference was a good sign. But indeed, if you have, as you have noted, the NEC, National Executive Committee of the ANC, comes out with a very tough hand for President Ramaphosa to deal with. And if there are going to be, and I think it's almost certain that there will be ongoing battles around Phala and other ambiguities about corruption in the Ramaphosa camp, then it is not going to be a clear trajectory ahead.
What I'm getting from you, though, is that we're probably going to see a little bit more of the same. But if that were to honestly be the case, one wonders if the ANC would survive beyond that point come 2024.
Indeed, that is a battle that it is fighting. We see it in that organizational report that was semi-secretive, but there's a lot of recognition in that report that the ANC is actually facing very serious problems and that public trust in the ANC has failed and is continuing to decline. And so it's in that context that one sees the story of this conference was really a story of 2 conferences. And the official line of the Ramaphosa ANC that things are getting better, that it is going to be assertive, and hopefully President Ramaphosa is going to be more assertive as president going forward. On the other hand, yes, indeed, there is that worry in the heart of the ANC as well. We see it in organizational report that it is not doing enough, the public is not trusting it enough. And that is where 2024 really looms large all over the current conference proceedings.
The president said they as a conference had decided on the path of renewal, so they're forging ahead with that renewal despite all the provocation and the distractions. They have all opted to go ahead with the renewal path. But one wonders yet again, or is it not going to be determined or properly assessed once the NEC list comes out, if really there will be that kind of renewal?
Indeed, I think that is absolutely the case. President Ramaphosa's words were strong, especially in his closing address at the conference. There seems to be an unambiguous message in there. There's one way forward, and that is the right way. But we know the complexities of ANC politics, and we know the dissenting voices, and we know the arguments that will be coming in, pointing out that he is not that clean himself, as long as questions around Phala still hover, and that many in his camp are not that clean. And what about the step aside? Is that a sufficient measure? Is it enough then not to ask people to step aside? as long as there have not been formal charges. We know those formal charges are few and far between, and the reputation of the damage to reputation of the ANC is far bigger than just a few cases that have been stepping aside. And yes, so it is a camp, a Ramaphosa camp, that in some cases would find it difficult to act because it would act against its own, including people possibly, if Zondo Commission recommendations go anywhere, investigations follow through. If investigations follow through on that, then it will be a camp that has to act against its own. And the other camp is always there, the one with relatively more baggage than the Ramaphosa camp. And in that respect, it is, sadly, unfortunately, the image of a more of the same that could be prevailing.
Now, the president, I noted this time in his address, spoke of them having chosen the unity, but principled unity path this time around. You'd remember in 2017, it was merely a unity project, but now he says principled unity. Does this suggest that the ANC is ready to lose those who, according to them, have displayed conduct that is foreign to the movement?
That is a big question, when the indication from Ramaphosa's words is that it is very strong business and clear-cut action. One can think back of 2 days ago, Fikile Mbalula, he's briefing to media how unambiguous he was that as Secretary General of the ANC, new one, that there is going to be action against those who have fallen foul of ANC prescripts of dissent, of not acting in unison in the party. And we'll have to see very much whether there is going to be the willpower to push through and potentially lose those people. We know that the ANC cannot at all afford to split at this time. Should it split like it did, for example, in the case of Cope after Polokwane, then the ANC definitely will fall below the 50% outright majority mark in 2014. Because it needs all the camps in order to maintain that majority.
But that would be the unity at all costs. Apologies for interjecting. Then that would be back to the more usual unity at all costs, because right now he speaks of principled unity, and he emphasized the principle that it's unity in purpose. There must be a purpose that unites you.
Absolutely, and that would imply that they would be willing in principle to go below that 50% mark if that is what it takes. I'm not sure the ANC is prepared to go below the 50% mark and play that political game. We've seen in cases, local government, for example, where it has gone below the 50% mark, there it does everything in its power to claw its way back through coalitions, alliances, and pure politics and strategy to claw its way back to being above 50%. So I think it hopes that there will be a way out of at all cost, and that non-compliant ones, the ones who are so far seen to be in a camp of being prepared, being ready to be disciplined, whether they would actually come around and unambiguously support his leadership.
So meaning we're going to see a little bit more of the same, because post-2017 in Nasrec, many had anticipated that there would be a reshuffle, certain people would be removed from cabinet, but a number of the ones that they had identified had now displayed those foreign tendencies within the party were kept on, and it seemed that the project was now to focus on the elections. And only after the elections were some of them removed from cabinet. So is this what's possibly going to happen this time around now, that post-2024, that's when we'll start to see the president actually deciding to remove a few?
Yes, we know President Ramaphosa has been very reluctant to reshuffle his cabinet, except in a few extreme cases where there were people who had fallen foul of some provisions, or Zweli Mkhize in a Digital Vibes case, and who resigned himself and necessitated some reshuffle. Certainly there are names like Lindiwe Sisulu, Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, and a few others, and Fikile Mbalula now being in a full-time ANC position, that necessitate those cabinet reshuffles. We still do not know whether President Ramaphosa will feel sufficiently emboldened, this time around by a majority in the presidential ANC election of 579 votes instead of the previous 179. We have to see, and we're all going to watch that with great interest, whether he will be emboldened and happy to act and assert a stand beyond just peacemaking on his cabinet, because it is indeed for the ANC, it's a critical time, also in relation to 2024, whether it can convince the public out there, the people whom it is supposed to serve, whom Ramaphosa said in his speech, that is the reason for the ANC's existence, to serve the people. And serving the people has to come also by way of our government system, of a cabinet with cabinet members that operate optimally, hyper-sufficiently, in a time where the ANC's electoral majorities really depend on the credibility that it can gain on the ground through improved delivery.
Then to the all-important, there are steps to rebuild the economy and bridge that inequality gap. He spoke about incentives, tax rebates, and a compact with the private sector. That call for compacts is not new. Do you think it would yield the desired results this time around?
I find that compact is often used in case where concrete words of absolute empirically provable delivery do not quite materialize, where the government itself cannot show enough and cannot have enough resources to do what it takes to fill in those delivery gaps. So compacting, while it's certainly important to bring people together and to help muster a broader front of delivery, I find it's too often used as a substitute for real action, concrete delivery action, although the two can go hand in hand. But I'm not reassured when I see too much of the compacting rhetoric being used.